Hello and welcome to Chatz, a television podcast, season 16, Couch Madness. 16 shows enter, one emerges as the show we will watch for the remainder of our season. Who will win, who will lose, and who will die? My name is Magellan, and I fucking love them. I'm joined by Alan. Hey.
I remembered how funny that line delivery is when I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing that we loved.
Yeah.
Misfits is the greatest show ever made. I'm Alan. That's Magellan. What's up, everyone? It's Couch Madness, the show where we take listener picks for what shows we should watch, and we pit them head to head against each other, and eventually we pick one that's going to win and watch it in its entirety. Cool. What's new and exciting? Oh, Magellan, there's something new about your recording setup. Tell the kids.
I'm in a different room, and I have a window that's facing the street, so I apologize if there's street noise. I'm going to have to, figure that out over time. But if I sound different for some reason, that's what's going on with me over here. So, that's fun and exciting.
You framed it in the most negative way. The good framing was, hey guys, I moved. I'm in a really cool place. I love where I'm at, and I hope that the change doesn't cause any disturbance. Instead, you were like, so I fucked up, and I'm somewhere else, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared.
Yeah, no. And it's, look, aesthetically, the space that I'm recording in looks nice. I mean, you saw it. It's, I think I use the space well. But this is the most recent thing that I'm learning about the situation is it feels like the same motorcyclist is driving back and forth up the street. So that's a little annoying. But anyway.
She's a Chatz fan. She just wants to listen to the episode recording. That's fine.
You're going to have to wait 2 weeks like everybody else. Go listen to Trek Chat 6. I know you didn't finish it yet. Come on.
It's long. We also just put out the fixed version of it where we don't have the weird audio glitch. So go re-listen.
Right. Speaking of which, gosh, it's been so long since we've recorded a Couch Madness because we did the Trek Chat stuff. We took a week off, you and I. So we've been away from this little game of ours, but I'm so excited to be back, especially with this pair of shows. What a well paired duo we have in front of us tonight. Because the first show we watched was, of course, our 9th seed in the tournament bracket, Heroes, against the 8th seed, Misfits. 2 shows about people getting superpowers and stuff. And my goodness, they couldn't be more different. And we're going to talk about them both. Heroes first. We watched Season 1, Episode 1, Genesis, which was written by Tim Kring, directed by David Semmel. It aired on September 25th, 2006. Alan, what happened in Heroes, Season 1, Episode 1?
Well, Magellan, in this episode, different characters are introduced as they find out their individual abilities, including a man who paints pictures of the future, a woman who sees a different side of her in the mirror, a teenage girl who cannot die, a man who thinks he can alter the time-space continuum, and a man running for Congress who has a brother that believes he can fly. As we learn this episode, it turns out the one running for Congress is the one who can fly. Whoa! Spoilers!
Whoa. So, talk us through your backstory with Heroes, your heroic backstory, I suppose. Had you seen any of the show? How were you made aware of it? Those kinds of things. Curious about that.
Yeah, I've always been aware of Heroes. I feel like I've circled the drain with this series. One different decision, one different podcast discussion, and I would have been a Heroes girly instead of a Lost girly. Easily, for sure. Because those were right in the same era of like early Hulu, shows coming out, big mysteries, what's happening. And I knew about Heroes. I watched ads for it. We got a comment actually that we'll read in the half about Heroes. That's just like, Heroes advertising was everywhere in 2006. They pushed this show hard as the next big thing. Rightfully, this got a huge cast. It's got a big ass budget. It's on network television. It's got these big lofty goals of telling a longer story arc. And we have, like, again, people with superpowers, which was really hot. And it's a fascinating look now at what superhero television was and could have been in 2006. And speaking of timelines, the alternate timeline where Marvel and Disney didn't fuse into a horrible Frankenstein monster. Uh, and I've always been aware of it. I've always been so curious about it, but I never actually watched a single second of it. So watching this pilot was like peering into another universe. I know I keep talking about alternate universes because they keep coming up. But what about you? What did you know about Heroes before this?
Yeah, I think similarly, this is not a show that I saw, that I've seen a minute of, but it's a show that I have been aware of pretty much the entire time that I've been like a conscious member of society, because it premiered in the fall of like 7th grade for us. And so it was about that time that I started to like form memory. I mean, I have earlier memories, everybody. It's okay. But
Phew.
you know what I mean? Like I'm like an agent in the world, and I understand my actions and my impact on other people is around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So Heroes, I've just always kind of known of it. And I think our friend Jim watched Heroes, and that's like the main person that I knew early in high school who was trying to get me to watch it or would talk about
Mm-hmm.
what was cool about it. Um, and I know that, writer strike stuff happened to it. And that's pretty much it. But it came out at an interesting time for television and an interesting time for superhero media, because 2006 is like, right at the tail end of those kinds of early aughts new wave of superhero movies, like your Sam Raimi Spider-Mans and your X-Men's and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of before that big Marvel Studios boom really takes off. So I don't know, just an odd relic of when it came out. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned the writer's strike. We are now in the latest writer's WGA strike since the one that affected the back half of Heroes. We talked about this in the last Couch Madness, how Alias was affected by writers' issues and how like that show pivoted in a large way. Um, that is a specter hanging above Heroes in a really like meaningful sense, because this is, like I said, a show that has goals of being uh, quote unquote epic, multiple interacting storylines that build into one larger story about this eclipse that's in superpowers and a super heroic society. Uh, and like you said, also friend of the pod, Jim, kind of hyped the show up for a while. I think he was one of the big voters actually in the Couch Madness voting bracket. So yeah, I'm also very excited. But let's get into it. Yeah, I was noticing, I was just reading now. This is 2006. 2008, we have Iron Man and the Hulk beginning the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 2009, the Walt Disney Company acquires Marvel Entertainment for $4 billion. So everything's about to happen, basically.
Right.
Um, but it's kind of charming looking at Chapter 1 Genesis by itself and just saying, "Oh, this is really um this is really earnest." That was one of my standout takes watching the Heroes pilot, was like, this is a really go-getter series with like big lofty goals, and it's probably not going to hit 10% of them. Uh I want to know, first off, how did you feel watching the pilot to Heroes now, having seen it? Like, where did you land on it?
It feels very much like a 2006 pilot for a show that's trying to have a big ensemble. I don't have like a great explanation for why that is, but it feels like, okay, the purpose of this episode is to show you every person's deal, get you to meet them and spend some time with them isolated from one another, and then to hint at and start to bring us towards the event or scenario that's going to kind of toss everybody together in the coming episodes. And it feels also very much like a mid-aughts thing of just like the decision making of who's in the ensemble and
Yeah.
the attempts to, I guess, make that ensemble representative of a wider range of people, but the almost like lack of total self-awareness in that process. So
Yeah.
all that to say, in watching this pilot, I was like, oh, okay, right. This came out in 2006 and it's an ensemble show with like a high concept premise. I don't know what I expected Heroes to be exactly.
But
I
it is
think,
exactly that.
yeah, like I think maybe in my head it just was such a more mythic show than what it
Mhm.
is, which is just like a normal ass show that you would watch on NBC at that time. And I like those shows, so I was charmed by it. Like, oh, this is fun. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm interested in to see more. And oh, I recognize, Hayden Panettiere's character from the advertising, or Masayoka's character. Like, oh, okay, yeah, it's Milo Ventimiglia from Gilmore Girls. Great, got it.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, lots of familiar
Yeah.
casts, and I know that's something that the show continues to do, is to bring a lot of like big name cast people. Uh, so that's also worth noting and interesting.
Hmm.
You mentioned the ensemble, and I'm sure we're both thinking of the same show when we think of like a series about interconnected people all across the world and the powers that combine that make them work
we
together.
we both wrote about that show in our notes at around the same point in the episode, I think.
Hmm.
Because both of us have it like towards, you're talking about Sense8.
I
I'm
am.
sure. Yeah. Um, what's your take there with that comparison?
We always try to be aware and conscious that shows came out when they came out, right? And I can't say that, Sense8 objectively did this better, but Sense8 does definitely have a better ensemble. It's much more diverse. If you haven't watched Sense8 already, we have a whole season about it if you want to go back and watch that with us. Uh, and like, this is 2006, so this is their attempt at that. And it's fascinating. And it's funny because I think in like 10, 15 years, maybe we look back at Sense8 and we say, well, that was kind of dated. I mean, already some of the queer rep in that show is like a little cringe, right? And we talk about like
Sure.
Nomi's plot and the whole pride stuff and how weird that was. Already starting to feel dated. But Masayoka's character and everything happening in Japan is so vaguely just a tiny bit racist, but in a like fetishistic way that I can't get over the fact that this was like written by a bunch of mostly white people. Uh,
Hmm.
and I also think, and very crucially, speaking of Lost, we've learned in recent months that like the writers team behind Lost specifically were very hesitant to include people of color in the primary plots of the show, at least for longer arcs. And so they were kind of like brought in and taken out. And I'm fascinated by Hiro, by Masayoka's character, because he's so much in the advertising and he's so much like a part of the image of heroes. And I do think that they're nice to him. I don't think they make fun of him, but like, I mean, they're just throwing in every Japanese stereotype and under the sun, right? We've got perv culture. We've got, like watching porn at work. We've got a monolithic, like monoculture thing. Like, oh, everyone looks the same and everyone dresses the same. And he just wants to get out of that because Japan makes everybody turn into, they're all like robots. Like all the imagery of him doing like, stretches or whatever exercise with his classroom is all very like tied up in like kind of racist imagery, but it doesn't feel hateful. It just feels like ignorant as hell. uh
Yeah. Right.
that was my pervading thought through every single scene of his. I think Mohinder, the other like primary person of color in the main cast so far, is like is also like that. We made the Indian guy a taxi
Yeah.
driver,
Yeah.
and we are self-aware of that, but we also did just do it. Like
Hmm.
there were choices made that feel kind of awkward and clunky, but in a way that I can say, oh, 2006, you know what, cute,
Yeah.
you tried, and I'm proud of you for trying, but it's a little awkward.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you on the way that the ensemble's composed and the way that the non-American, non-white characters are being portrayed. Because like, all of the sort of lore and the characters who are the most aware of the most fantastical powers. Like Mohinder is driving the lore of the show,
Hmm.
right? And something about his character being the one who's doing that, it feels like the show is kind of like using that uh vibe of like, oh, this guy, like he's from India, and he is at this Indian university, and so like his theories are a little off the beaten path, and there's kind of like a mysterious quality to the things. There's a vibe there with that, and with Hero being the one who can like bend space and time, and I don't know, just the way that we're arranging that. And then meanwhile, on the other side of things, we're trying to invest a lot more time and gravitas into the individual plots and struggles of like I don't know Milo's character's name. I forget his name. But him or Nikki or
Hmm.
Hayden Panettiere's character. So yeah, the way that we're doing the diversity moves in this ensemble, but then within that, the way that we're allocating like how developed our individual characters, how stereotypical versus not, where is the plot being moved, all those things definitely, to me at least, read like, okay, this show is 15 years old at this point, or
Yeah.
17 years old. Jesus.
Oi.
So yeah, I'm with you
And I think
there.
that's gonna be something that comes up in discussing Misfits as well, which is a show that I did not expect to have discussions of diversity, but totally does, and it's like it works in its favor mostly, at least so far. We can talk about that, but like, yeah, I think that the plots that the show feels most committed to are for all the white people, and everything else feels like lore building. Like we're supposed to care about Claire because Hayden Panettiere is like the nice girl, the girl next door, the face of the show, the mantra of like the motto of the show, and the plot twist is that her dad is the villain. Like, oh my god, classic comic booky plot twist, right? And I think it's Peter Petrelli is Ventimiglia's character's name. Him and his brother is like given a lot of screen time in this, to where I was like, I am finding this guy so uninteresting. This like, my brother's a politician. I think I can fly, but he doesn't want me to find out. And I finally jump off a building and he saves me because he can fly. I feel like that's as much as they had written so far. Like, where does that plot go from there? I guess it's about them like hiding this from people or whatever. But it's just a lot of time devoted to a plot that feels a little bit undercooked. And my last point about diversity for now, I swear, is like talking about Nikki, uh, the one like adult woman in the cast so far has dual personalities, and one of them is a sicko, and she's a sex worker, and she's a single mom, and it's just like you played like trope bingo. I feel like with some of these
Yeah,
characters,
yeah,
and just said, what if I did all of the tropes at the same time and shoved them all in there? How does that work? And the answer is like, not
yeah.
really.
Right. And it definitely it's of the five like people with powers who we follow, there are two women and they're both blonde white women, and one of them is a cam girl and one of them's a cheerleader.
Uh huh.
It's like what
Yeah, what are we
what was
doing?
the cork board where all the other ideas were, that this is what we, not to say that those are bad character archetypes to use, but I think like in the context of the ensemble, like you could make those archetypes work is what I'm saying, maybe.
Yes.
um and I will say, to somewhat the show's credit, I think they do interesting things with how people's powers relate to who they are. Like
Yeah.
it is kind of fun that the sort of like stereotypical popular girl cheerleader is invincible,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's like trying to save her and protect her or whatever, and she's like, no, I'm literally like, I can't get hurt right now, so
Mm-hmm.
relax. Like I think that's an interesting idea. But yeah, there's some gender stuff happening here and some race stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all
The
a little bit not great.
the power as metaphor is my favorite thing about superhero fiction, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like how does it interact with the real world, but like how do your powers represent who you are? That's like the core of what makes these stories good because it relates them back to us. And I agree that like Claros is pretty clever. Hero's whole like I want to like get pass through time and space to get out of this loop of life, you know, and you know, all of them have that. I don't need to like go down the list, but just
Yeah.
specifically Nikki's, and then I guess also like her son probably has powers too. I think we determined Micah, and then like the guy who can paint, who's hanging out with
Right.
hanging out with
Yellow Jackets. Yeah, what's her name?
Thaisa from Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
It's like I really did
Tawny
not like that
Cypress.
plot. Tawny Cypress, the actress's name. I really didn't like that plot. I like Tawny Cypress. They really. This is just an observation, having just been watching Yellow Jackets. They didn't know how to like darker skinned people, or they maybe made intentional makeup choices. But she looks really off in this, like way lighter skinned than I think she actually is, and they don't do that in Yellow Jackets, and it's just weird. This was a thing at the time. That's why I mention it. But yeah, other thoughts on the Heroes pilot. I guess like we don't really need to go into all the storylines, but I wanted to briefly touch on like the role of violence, specifically in Claire's storyline, and how much gore we are able to see for a TV 14 network television show. Because she does put her hand into a garbage disposal, and we see it all mangled and coming out like that. That was pretty gruesome, huh?
Yeah, that's a lot. I wasn't a big fan of that.
Or her jumping off the building, and then we see her arm bent backwards. It's like trying to be a little over the top, but it just kind of was like, oh, I didn't expect to be looking at that today.
Yeah, right. Because this, like, guys, you're on NBC.
You're on NBC, exactly.
Come on now. That's not what you are. You're not Misfits. Sorry to say.
Yeah, Misfits, when it's violent, you're like, yep, this actually kind of makes sense for what this is and when it's coming out.
Yeah.
But other like things that you wanted to dig into or discuss about this pilot.
Let's see. So I do think I was, you're a little down on the brothers thing. I think my critique of it wasn't necessarily that like it was underbaked, but more that this pilot really, the pacing of this pilot is really interesting to me because we know that they all have powers. We know that that's where we're going, and they're slowly drip feeding these details to us. And I really liked the revelation, like you were alluding to, that Peter's having these dreams of like, oh, maybe he's gonna fly. I'm certain that I'm gonna be able to fly, and then it turns out it's his brother who can do it. Like thematically, I liked that setup and that dynamic of I'm living in my brother's shadow, and like finally there's gonna be this thing that's special about me that's gonna help me soar above him, and then it just turns out that like, no, you also aren't special in that way either. And your brother can fly. But, this was a case where it's not that I wanted a 90-minute pilot of Heroes. Of course not. I would never want such a thing. But it really felt like they took like 20 minutes of episode and said, okay, this is the revelation we want to end with. That's the thing that's going to get people coming back, and we're just going to like stretch it out and get there at the end of 43 minutes instead of 20 minutes. So there's a lot of seeds in this pilot that are interesting. I think that's one. Like you were saying, I liked seeing Hero bamf into New York City.
Love you, bud. Thank you for saying that.
That was fun. Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot of things that I'm like excited to see where they go. But in terms of how they showed up here in this episode, this is kind of like a non-episode. It's like a weird one to talk about because it's really just table setting. Yeah. I don't know if you felt similarly about that.
It is absolutely table setting, but my thing is I was reading a little bit of people's opinions on this show. I try to do that research for Couch Madness, and while people definitely agree that the show falls off hugely after the writer's strike because they wrote themselves into a lot of corners, I do see the value in origin stories. Nowadays the The Marvel movies don't usually do traditional origin stories. We haven't had one in a little while. Even Spider-Man Homecoming was explicitly and successful because it was not an origin story. So like when they do them, they're not as interesting. But in this, it's like, okay, I care about these people, and I think part of why I like the character work in this show so far, at least well enough, is that Brian Fuller has some writing credits on this. Brian Fuller, who literally left Heroes after this first season to create Pushing Daisies, another show that was hampered by the writer's strike.
Hell yeah.
Great show though.
Great show.
And so it's like, okay, if you take out the character focus and we get past the origin story, what's left? Like, what is Heroes? And that's like where there's still a little bit of mystery and question marks for me. And I'm a little curious, but also we've done 13 Under 13 for a while now, and I know what it's like to get invested in a mystery that will not resolve itself. And so I feel I can already tell that with Heroes. It's like the stuff with Claire's dad is going to probably last the whole show, right? Like that's going to go. Sure. We haven't even seen our main villain yet. We both know from the advertising who the villain is of this show, but he's not in this. And it's like, we have so much like railroad to build, but that doesn't exactly instill me full of faith. The fact that they had to come back for a second miniseries in 2015, Heroes Reborn, and that got canceled means like this show just couldn't do it.
I didn't know that there was a miniseries. Like the cast came back?
I'm not sure how many people came back. Well, so the way Heroes Reborn was framed was like the creator of the show said this isn't season 5, it's season 10. Like we're jumping way far ahead.
Whoa. I did not know this existed.
Yo, you don't remember this got announced and it was the whole thing? Yeah.
No.
It's also a 13 Under 13.
Whoa. So oh my god, it's got Henry Zabrowski from A to Z in it.
Oh my god.
Wait, he's one of the main cast. Yeah.
Yeesh. Oh, okay, we're gonna have to talk about Heroes Reborn later. Well, we cannot watch that without the show though. That's
no, certainly not. But oh my god, how did I not know this existed?
I think we memory hold it because until I looked this up on Wikipedia, I also did not remember it existed. I definitely
weird.
Yeah, Heroes Reborn, baby. Folks who watched Heroes heads, tell us how bad Heroes Reborn is. I'm sure it's terrible. But I'm just curious. 13 episodes and cancelled.
So, did you have a point to go to? Because I had a question for you.
I was just going to say that I think that my quick point about the theme song.
Oh, yeah.
I always think it's Sweet Disposition by the Temper Trap every single time. It is not, but they have a similar intro. And the Heroes theme song is used on Arabic TV as a commercial break.
Oh my god!
Music copyright.
That's awesome.
There's also a song from the Book of Eli soundtrack on Arabic TV usually, so we're doing cool things over there. Anyways, what were you going to say?
I love it. Oh, I just want to know which, like, this is the ensemble question. Like, who were you excited to follow? Who's your fave? Who's your main character here?
Okay, great question. I think Claire is going to be our epicenter. And I like Hayden Panettiere. I think she's fun in this. And I love the my dad is secretly a supervillain thing. I was going to say another show that did that recently, but I would be spoiling the entire premise of that show by saying it. So I'm not going to.
Okay.
I think Hero's actually charming. I never knew what Masaoka sounded like. When he first spoke and he was like, hey, what's up? And he had this like high-pitched, fast voice. I was like, that's Masaoka? Like, that's awesome. Like, what's up, dude?
Yeah, that was
fun. He's adorable. Yeah. And I think the actor who plays Mohinder, Sendil Ramamurthy, is like quite good. He's kind of playing above the rest of the show, though. Like, he's a little too good.
Yeah, he's in his own separate like mystery drama over there, which is kind of fun.
But yeah, I think those are my big ones. What about you?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with those down the line. I like the way that Hayden Panettiere is playing Claire because, as written, I feel like Claire could be played a lot more kind of Valley girly or something like that, and she's not doing that, which is nice. It was a little silly, by the way, that, that she had that like friend filming, and she's like, "I'll talk to you in front of people tomorrow at school."
Such a
Like,
simp, by the way. You already know that's what his plot's gonna be.
yeah,
That he likes
exactly,
her.
exactly. So that was engaging. I think that the twist at the end of Peter's plot got me interested in, well, where does he go or what happens with him? And then yeah, Hero's just such a sweet lad that you can't help but love his love of New York.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been waiting for you.
Yeah.
You want to jump into the next one?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about Misfits.
All right.
So,
this is a big one. Yeah, Misfits is a British drama series that aired its first pilot episode 1 or series 1 1.1 on July 19th, 2012. This pilot was written by Howard Overman and directed by Tom Green. And I said July 19th, 2012. And John, what happened in the Misfits pilot?
In this episode of Misfits, 5 young adolescents begin community service under the watchful eye of their probation officer when a freak storm strikes them, granting them supernatural abilities.
Yummy.
So, we've watched the Misfits pilot before.
That's true.
It was one of our earlier Pilot Chats episodes. I'm trying to find exactly
Pilot Chats
when.
11. It's Pilot Chats 11.
You beat me to it.
When
was Pilot Chats 11?
Oh, see, now you're asking really hard
I got it. November 30th, 2019.
Oh, that's not that long ago.
2019? That's pre-COVID.
Okay, fair enough.
3.5 years. 3 3/4 years.
It doesn't feel that long ago. I feel like I watched it yesterday.
You know what?
That's because I did watch the pilot yesterday.
I think the thing that is kind of messing me up about post-COVID time, sorry to bum people out, is like everything before COVID feels like last year to me, or 2 years ago, and everything that's happened since feels like it happened within the past year.
Or past 5 minutes.
Past 5 minutes. So we were not. I don't want to speak for you. I was not a big fan of Misfits when we piloted it. From what I remember, I felt better about it this time. I think I liked it and appreciated it more on the second watch. I don't know what your arc. How was your arc with it? Watching it a second time.
I didn't go back and listen to Pilot Chats 11. You can go back if you go to patreon.com/chatspot and hear that episode in the backlog. But I don't remember how I felt. I think I liked it well enough. And I definitely talked about like where it lands in 2012. And like, this is even more so like people are streaming television on the internet and talking about it on forums. Like, this was actually a very big show in the Tumblr community, along with Skins. There was this big trend of British teenage shows for teenagers making it big amongst certain subsects of like American fans. And Misfits was absolutely one of the biggest ones there. And just keeping that in mind as I watch it, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand exactly why this show is quote unquote the way it is. And if you watch this pilot, you'll know exactly what we mean from probably 3 seconds in, right?
It's like 1 second in. It's like immediately, okay, I get it.
Oof, it is a certain type of teenage horny that maybe not 2012 Alan. I think I was starting to age out of it, but like 2010 Alan would have been like devouring this show.
Sure, right.
And it just
Hulu really wanted me to watch this show. I remember.
Big time. Me too. And I was close. I just didn't have friends who watched it. I think if any one of us watched it, we would have become Misfits heads.
Probably. I think I remember going to the page, like, the show keeps showing up. Should I watch it? And then I'm just not hitting play on Misfits. But anyway, let's talk. So how did you feel about it this time? You felt okay about it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I felt okay. I saw potential in where it's going to go from here. I think that this pilot is very small scale, and
Mm-hmm.
if you watch it on at least Hulu, the preview at the end that shows like this season on Misfits paints a very specific picture of what type of show this is going to become that
Yeah.
I find highly appealing. So
Interesting.
big
Okay.
big potential.
Okay.
We don't have to agree on that.
Uh,
We don't have to.
I don't think we do. But we'll talk about it. So, I had a funny experience watching this because I saw that it was streaming on Pluto TV on demand, and I was
Yeah.
like, yes, I can continue to vouch for my beloved streaming service Pluto TV. But it was the Spanish dub, so there was a moment where I was
Ooh.
like, should I? I've already seen it once in English. Should I watch the Spanish dub? But I didn't.
Oh.
Anyway, so a few things to talk about with Misfits. I'm going to give you multiple choice. Okay.
Okay.
You tell me what you want to talk about. There's the like tonal stuff. There's the plot of this episode. There's the kind of like art stuff, like the aspect ratio, color grading, like the cinematography. And then there's like the character, the ensemble. Which of those four things do you want to talk about first?
Sorry, repeat. So they were the visual style.
Visual style, the like kind of themes or genre or the sensibility of the show,
Yeah.
the plot, and the characters.
Themes and sensibility.
Okay. So give us a rundown. What's the vibe in Misfits?
It's very middle finger to society. Teenagers are cool. Fuck the authority. A little bit edgy in that way, but a little bit cheeky. Are you supposed to like Nathan at the end of this pilot? I don't know. I think you are. I don't always like him. I think he's a little annoying. I understand why the girlies loved him back and the gays loved him back in the day. I'm so consistently enamored with the characters that are like put upon. And so this time, much more than our pilot chats watch, I was like, Kelly rules. Kelly is the best character in this pilot.
Kelly's great. Yeah, for sure.
And it's amazing because like it's fun. This show has like such an interesting relationship to British culture as well, and I think that is a huge reason why it blew up in the U.S. for a certain subsect. Is we love seeing things that are very, very British, right? Like, how many people Googled what is a chav after watching this, or had to turn on subtitles when Kelly speaks and talking about all that stuff. It kind of those parts form brainworms in your head. But I think thematically, the reason I like Misfits thematically more than I liked Heroes is that it knows like these characters getting powers is not going to save their lives. They're not destined to save the world. They just have a new problem to deal with. Like it's made abundantly clear in one of the last scenes where Kelly's like, nobody's going to believe us. This is as bad as anything else that's happened to us. Right. We are just on the run now. Nothing better happened that we got these powers. And I prefer that to like, oh, these powers make me amazing and I need to learn how to use them and be a good person. So that I think thematically is where I land with Heroes, is that like the theme of rebellion and superpowers not as gifts but as curses is like really fun to me.
Yeah, we're following quite literally Misfits instead of Heroes, right? And that actually
fuck
is thematically much different. Yeah, I think something that in terms of the sensibility of the show, something that I figured out this time around, when we first watched it, I was very not a fan of the horniness of the show. I still am not, but I think softened on it a little bit because that's part of the point, I guess. And part of the what makes the show kind of, it's supposed to be a tense experience to watch, and it's supposed to be full of different flavors of anxiety and nerves and whatnot. And the other side of that I think I really figured out this time around watching it is that this is a horror show, or at least the plot in this pilot. And I'm not a horror fan. So that's another thing that helped me understand my like initial distaste and bouncing off of it when we first watched it, and helped me to appreciate it this time around, because it does the horror stuff and like interweaving it with what you're describing as this kind of like punk, like middle finger to society aesthetic, interweaving that with the kind of like teenage hormones, teenage angst, teenage sensibilities. Like it really, Misfits feels very confidently that it knows what it's trying to be.
Yes.
And watching this pilot, I think I had a greater appreciation for that than I did the first time around. Yeah.
I think watching it next to Heroes helps it, right? Because
Yes,
Heroes
I think so.
is so ambitious, and you're like, you're never gonna do this. You're not gonna get anything done that you're trying to do. And Misfits, I watch, and I'm like, you guys have no ambitions, and like the characters, like you have no ambitions of this going anywhere. I feel like you wrote the end of this pilot, and they have no more script. Like we're gonna write it as they come out, and I'm sure that's not the case. I know how TV works, kind of, but it feels so like indie almost. It's just like, hey, we're gonna try, we're gonna figure it out. Yeah. It's not gonna fit into any particular thing. We're not building a bigger universe. Nobody else has powers that we know of yet. Although you watch anything about Misfits, it's gonna continue to introduce people with powers. We're just figuring it out as we go along, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think what kind of, not to rag on Heroes or talk about Heroes too much in the Misfits segment, but you know, like you said, it really helps Misfits to be viewed right after Heroes, because it's Heroes is trying to bridge to some kind of narrative event or moment. It's trying to set up some grander thing. And Misfits is like, no, we're going to do this, and then this, and then this. We're going to strike the kids with lightning, and they'll get their powers. Cool. And now we're going to do this, and this guy's trying to kill him. And it just like keeps jumping to those big moments and doing the thing, and not sitting around and setting it up and waiting to get to the point. Because also what is working in its favor because of that is it's grounding itself in a group of characters, and it's saying like, the show is about these people. It's about them having their issues and continuing to try to figure those things out. And I think it does a much better job of getting us to care about the individual people as a result of that. So yeah, I think the ensemble work here is really strong.
Who are your favorites amongst the cast? We've got Alicia, played by Antonia Thomas, who we learn by the end of the episode has the power to instantly make people sexually ravenous for her by touch. We have Nathan Young, whose power set we don't know yet. That's a mystery of the show. We have Kelly, who has the ability to hear people's thoughts. We have Simon Bellamy, who can turn invisible. We have Gary, who can die. And we have Curtis, who can... We have Curtis who can turn back time. And I guess we also have Tony, the parole officer, who can become a monster.
Yeah, right.
He has berserker rage.
You know, I think this time around, I really liked Kelly, like you said. I think she has there's like a tenderness and a authenticity to her character. She's like kind of the glue person for everybody.
Yeah.
She's the person who everybody is like ragging on her and being really rude and disrespectful. And in spite of it all, she is like trying to do the right thing. And I really liked that. And I think noticed that a little bit more this time around. And then what I enjoyed about Nathan's plot is I think it demonstrates one particular way that you can build audience rapport with a character, which is by making them an asshole and then doing terrible, terrible things to them in the story.
Yeah.
Because the whole bit where he goes home and his mom isn't letting him in the house because she's trying to make her relationship work, which... tell me way more about this dynamic and how we got here. And he's being annoying and like putting his lips into the mail slot and stuff. And you're like, this kid, what the heck? And then to immediately follow that with the scene where it's cutting or fading as he's walking across the bridge, calling every single person he knows, and none of them want to take him in. It's just such a great sequence of like, yeah, this guy's a total jerk. And now we're going to show you all of the reasons to feel bad for him. And we're going to keep beating the shit out of him narratively. And then he's going to keep being a jerk. And you're going to have to like figure out how you feel about that. It's just a really interesting way to set up a character as opposed to a show that might like be a little nervous to dirty their characters up. And then as a result, they're a little nervous to make adverse situations happen to them. And then it kind of creates a more bland characterization. So I don't necessarily like Nathan, but I enjoyed seeing bad things happen to him and then be like, oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
I feel bad for that.
And the fact that he doesn't even get his powers, or that he doesn't know what his power is yet.
Right.
It's like, even the cool thing that happened to everyone that like may or may not have been ruining our lives, I don't even get that. Like, that explains why he's such a ne'er-do-well, right? Like, why he's such a dick. It's like the world gives him nothing. His mom not easily, but clearly this is like a repeated event that leads to her kicking him out of the house, which is like so hard. It feels so harsh and makes you want to empathize with him until you realize, there must be a reason that that's happening. You get a sense that Nathan has been someone who has burned bridges consistently because he can't connect with people. And just persists and persists and persists, and that makes him just a really likable archetype, despite being like reprehensible at the same time. You can't help but kind of like him at the same time.
Yeah. And then I really like Curtis. I love I think my favorite power as metaphor in the group is Curtis having like fucked up his sports future. So his power is that he can rewind time. That's great. I really enjoy that. So I think I liked him this time around too.
It's an awesome justification for that power, because the rewind time thing is pretty common. But the reasoning for it, and also the like racial aspect of it, and like I got caught with stuff and they used me as an example of like, what did somebody say, like people like me or something. They do all but just say it, and I think that's a really strong writing. Nathan Stewart Jarrett, by the way, shouldn't come as a surprise, but is surprising. He played Belize in one of the stage adaptations of Angels in America. He seems like a really good fit for that. He's also smoking hot. I'm just here to say it. There you go. That's the queer moment of the week, guys. Thanks for listening. If that's the part you stuck for, then you're done. So I think Curtis is great, well performed. They're really building him and Alicia together in a way that feels a little bit heavy-handed, but I'm here for it.
Sure. Yeah.
All the talk about like, oh, which one of us is going to get which girl? Like the characters are talking about the ship potential. And I think that's kind of funny. And Simon's just in the corner like, I'm going to become a sicko at some point, probably in episode 2, because you don't get Eon. This was Eon Rand's like big first starring role before he got on Game of Thrones. And you don't cast a guy that looks and acts like that without making him a bad person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Simon's going to be the first one to break bad if he hasn't already.
Right. Feels that way.
And I'm excited about that. I don't know how to feel about Alicia yet. The sexualization kind of centers around her in this pilot.
Yeah, it really bothered me the first time we watched it. It still does. I think for whatever reason, I'm more open to giving the show the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, maybe you're going for something here or you're trying to do something, but it's definitely not my favorite part of the episode. I'll say that.
Yeah, the obsession with her, and like, I see what they're doing. That like, again, you touch her and you feel this insatiable lust, like, but the show also has lust for her. The camera lingers on her breasts and her putting on the jumpsuit, so it's not subtle at all. The show's not subtle in any way. I don't think a single aspect of Misfits is subtle.
No, no.
It's kind of a textbook case of why you don't have to be subtle. You can if you're just telling a story though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this pilot, like you were talking earlier about how Kelly is like the glue that holds it together. This pilot shows that so nicely, right? Like, oh, I chose to come after you guys. I could have just run away and been fine. And I decided to be a nice fucking person. And now we're in this together. Like, she could have been out of this plot entirely. And that plus the escaping the parole officer and all of that stuff, I found really fun. And like, that made this overall a solid pilot. IMO.
Agreed.
Extra notes there, extra thoughts, concerns, worries about the British rap that Kelly likes. The fact that Nathan's mom was also on Game of Thrones.
Lots of great visual choices in this episode. When they get their powers and they're struck by lightning and they do the thing where they're falling backwards against a black backdrop, it's really stylish. The way that they show Curtis seeing himself in his eye and then time rewinding is super stylish. I love this little moment where the guys are playing foosball and the beginning of their conversation is shot as if the foosball plastic guys are talking to each other. So the show is making really bold visual choices, and that was one of my favorite things about the pilot, to be honest. Is it's just fun to look at and see what sort of shots they come up with.
Super stylish, yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I thought also the music choices were quite good. That's another thing that Misfits was known for, was having really good music. We brought some Nick Drake in at the end. Not Drake, but Nick Drake. And it's heavy-handed. That was my other thing about the pilot. Like that ending where everyone's home again and Curtis rewinds the tape to watch himself win a race. I was like, come on. You know what?
Yeah.
I love it, but come on.
Yeah, sure.
That's how I felt.
Totally.
So those are our thoughts on the episodes, folks. Before we make our decision or talk about our decision-making process, I'd like to read some messages that we got from the listeners, Majel, if that's okay with you.
Please do, yeah.
So to start things off, we have an email from Ryan Slowinski, friend of the pod and co-host of Spit and Polish Presents. The subject line is, of course, baby daddy likey Heroes and Misfits, because Ryan likes to make me suffer. Hello, my little chatzlings. I wanted to give some thoughts and feelings about Heroes and Misfits and perhaps give you a better understanding of what both shows have in common and the disasters they would eventually become over time. Ooh,
okay.
I love it. He knows we love beautiful disasters. I love that.
Tell me way more.
I loved Heroes when it was first on, Ryan says. It was a truly magnetic series that really attracted me due to some great characters, brilliant use of tension, engaging mysteries, and taking a more gritty look at superpowers. Lost, Heroes, and Desperate Housewives were the three shows of my youth that I went down the rabbit hole for and delved into all of the bonus material. I looked at the forums online and even read all the fan theories. These were some of the first programs that I was aware of that had so much meat on the bone that down here in Australia, where Ryan is from, we had after show specials with people breaking stuff down, which is pretty common now, but it was rare back then. I can't put into a single email how tragic it was to see Heroes turn into shit and become complete nonsense. And it still fills me with great sadness remembering being the only person I knew still watching the show beyond a certain point. Lost and Heroes were very seminal in my relationship and eventual distrust of ongoing storytelling on TV, since both left a bad taste in my mouth for all these years. And it's hilarious that Desperate Housewives overall was the more satisfying of the three. Love that. He continues about Misfits. Misfits may not seem like it at first, but it's a show with a really great overarching structure that unfolds and one that tied together beautifully for a time. It has this perfect mixture of something many shows lack, which is episodic and serialized together. You have plenty of throwaway things that don't negate the bigger story beats that happen during the series. And Misfits also had a gritty look at superpowers, but goes in the funny direction of how people would probably be idiots with those powers, or cruel. Like with Heroes, the show had grand ambitions and wanted to be more than what it was, but due to the nature of production, it fell apart. It gets to the point where the show has none of the original cast left in it, and you're left wondering, who is this really for? My hot take on Misfits is that the best character is the one that replaced the fan favorite, and I will die on that hill. Overall, Heroes was a TV show that declared from the start that it was an important series with a big story to tell, but due to things outside of its control, it failed to do that. Misfits, on the other hand, led many to believe it was just a comedy show with a high premise, but slowly revealed that it was this important series with a big story to tell, but due to things outside of its control, it failed to do that. That was our email from Ryan.
I love that insight. Yeah, I think that's totally on the money. This sense of what it is that these shows are declaring that they're trying to do from the outset, and it's a bummer, but also kind of exciting from a podcaster's perspective that the shows kind of go left as they go on.
Yeah, every time I read about later series Misfits, I'm like, who are any of these freaking people? It's like reading X-Men from the beginning and then reading later X-Men, and you're like, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
I guess it's exactly like that.
The other thing that happened to me after I tried to stream this on Pluto TV is I went back to my Google search of watch Misfits streaming or whatever, and on the Google result clicked the play button next to Amazon Prime, which is where I watched it. And that took me to season 5 episode 8, and it started playing a previously on where it's this entirely different cast, and I was like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, send me back to episode 1, please.
It's exactly the X-Men thing where there's no setting except the UK, but otherwise you can just plug and play any young teenagers into this storyline and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And also I love this thought that Misfits was a show with low ambitions that exceeded them, and Heroes is a show with high ambitions that failed them. But they are both failures in different ways, ultimately, because of production. Pretty cool. So thank you, Ryan. We got a couple of quick comments / questions on the Discord as well, Majel.
Okay.
We can quickly hit on. This first one is from a friend of the pod, Nick. What were Alan and Magellan watching in 2006 instead of Heroes? Do you remember?
Gosh, 2006. 2006, like fall of 2006, I guess. So
sure.
We were in middle school. Let me check something real quick.
I can pull up the fall 2006 TV schedule.
No. Yeah, give me that. Name some shows that were on.
How I Met Your Mother. Were you watching it by then or no? You
not at that time. I watched it later. Yeah.
Okay. Bones.
Maybe a little, like here and there, maybe.
30 Rock.
Not at that time.
We definitely weren't watching Supernatural or Ghost Whisperer.
I was watching Ghost Whisperer.
Okay, that was on.
My family watched that show.
I was not watching Lost, as a lot of people guessed. I got onto Lost in around 2008, 2009, right at the beginning of season 5, because they were talking about it on the Geek Box podcast. That's an extremely old podcast. And I was like, I want to understand what they're talking about. So I watched and caught up in the middle of season 5 and then was caught up for season 6. Yeah. No, I was watching Prison Break in 2006. That was my big show. Pretty good. Like, pretty good. Like, you think, like, oh, they get out of prison at the end of season 1. What's left to tell? Turns out a whole lot. It's, like, kind of cool. It's kind of a fun show.
That's funny.
Studio 60 was also on. Sad. God, Studio 60 and Heroes at the same time.
What a perfect time. Yeah, I mean, at that time, I was honestly watching... Like, I was not watching a lot of new stuff on cable or networks or whatever. I think the only shows that I was watching new episodes of were, like, stuff with my family, so Survivor or American Idol, or my mom liked Ghost Whisperer, or I was watching, like, the Colbert Report, funnily enough. And then mostly just watching shows on DVD
from the library,
like a lot of The Simpsons and stuff like that. Not even from the library yet at that time, but yeah, just a lot of that sort of thing.
Not to date us too much, but I was still kind of watching cartoons in 2006.
True, I watched some Pokemon or some Yu-Gi-Oh or that kind of stuff.
Hi Puffy Amiyumi, Teen Titans, Justice League
Teen
Unlimited,
Titans. Yes, yes.
Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Kids Next Door, Ben
Yep,
10.
yep, yep.
Yeah, those are the shows I was watching in 2006. I
Yeah,
was a baby. Next
right.
question from May Louise. I don't know if it's a good one or not, but now that the MCU has gone into TV, what do you think a 2006 Marvel TV show would have looked like? DC had Smallville. Do you think that Marvel would have taken a similar approach?
Oh, right. Yeah, I think there was in 2006 probably still this idea that like mainstream audiences aren't going to take a superhero like a four-color superhero story seriously. So we
Uh-huh.
have to do something. Like Heroes is not gritty necessarily, but it's trying to be grounded and it's
Yes.
trying to tell a story of, what would people do in the real world who then have powers. So I would imagine a Marvel show would do something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they would have gone the Smallville route of like, well, you can't, I don't even know how you would go the Smallville route. Like, what Marvel character would you do that with?
That's the
Um,
interesting thing
but
about the MCU is when it started, there was no like, well, I guess Spider-Man, like the young hot
yeah,
superhero guy. There could have been a Spider-Man show in '06, but the Raimi movies were still coming out.
right.
So I don't know. I mean, the boring answer is that they wouldn't, right? Because they didn't. They wouldn't have done shows. But if they did a show, I would have loved to see a Spider-Man TV show, like dig into either Tobey or a new guy. Uh,
Hmm.
we have always dreamed here at Chatz of a really good X-Men show, and I think doing something like that in 2006 would be chaotic and kind of cool. Probably bad,
Hmm.
but good at the same time.
I mean, the truth is, like, well, they were doing shows, it's just they were cartoons. I think that's where they thought they could do
Yeah.
it. But probably what they would have done is what they actually did when they started to make the forays into TV, where they would start with a character like Daredevil, who you can sort of do separate from the rest of the Marvel universe, and you can like do a darker tone, or you can do a story that doesn't feel so super,
Hmm.
um, to kind of like fit into the mold of an existing TV genre. So I would imagine they would do something like that, or maybe we would have gotten like a Blade TV show or something.
Oh, I would have loved a Blade show.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
wait, hold on. Wait. I said that because I was looking at I googled like Marvel TV shows,
uh-huh.
and there was a Blade the series that ran
Huh?
from June 28th to September 13th, 2006.
Excuse me?
I'm not even joking
You're doing a
with
funny
you.
meme. No. You're doing a funny meme. That's fine.
I'm
David
not.
S. Goyer?
Blade the series.
Starring Sticky Fingers?
Spike TV.
David S. Goyer, Magellan, is like one of the writers of The Dark Knight.
The TV series takes place after the film Blade Trinity. Certain events of the film are mentioned in the pilot episode.
What are you saying? Oh my god,
I'm
Sticky
sorry.
Fingers Blade. Alright,
How
we have
did we figure out something that really happened?
that's unbelievable.
Golly,
It's a 13 out of 13! Let's go. Keep it in the put it in the tank. Put it in the tank.
I'll put it in the tank.
Sorry for yelling. Editor Alan, you can fix that. Yeah, please put that in the tank. That sounds amazing. Quick
So
one from Nope.
This is what they would have done.
Yeah, I
What
would have
they
been
did.
super pro bad and canceled. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, Friend of the podcast, Notepad. How is the experience of watching Heroes different when you aren't seeing an ad for Heroes on every other commercial break? And I kind of answered
it's
this in the
trippy.
Discord. It is trippy. I kind of answered this in the Discord. I said watching Heroes definitely feels like when you play one of those mobile games that you see ads for, and you realize, oh, there's actually a game here, like Ebony Online or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is like a bad tower defense. Like watching Heroes definitely feels like playing the game that's in an ad.
Yeah.
And quick, last but not least, from Pat, what superpower, singular superpower, would you want to have? I have an easy answer for this myself.
What is it?
Flight.
Dang, that's what I was gonna say.
We can both say that. We can both fly around together.
I'll do jumper powers.
Ooh, teleportation.
Yeah, well, I'd call it jumper power specifically.
Yeah, you want to specifically do like a big silver portal that you like go through or whatever he does. Did he have a portal?
Does he
I
have a
feel like he had a portal.
portal?
Maybe I just remember the portal because of the cover of the movie.
No, I think it's he needs to see it so he has photos of places or something.
That's dumb. Okay. All right,
We should
Hayden.
watch it.
Collect your...
We should watch it.
We really should. The first movie I remember walking out of the movie hating. Like out of my
Really?
first watch.
Really?
I was like, that sucked. I told my friend, I'm like 13 years old. I'm like, that sucked. That was bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun. I love that.
Thank you guys for all the questions. We'll be
For
back
me,
after
that was
this
the invention of lying.
Yes, that too. Well, we watched that together.
We saw it together.
Ugh. We'll be right back after this brief musical break and a long therapy discussion of the invention of lying to discuss our final pick for round 2 of Couch Madness. Welcome back to Couch Madness. I'm still Alan. That's the Magellan. Hi, Magellan.
Hey, it's so good to be here and see you.
I fucking love ya. I still love ya after this long break.
Just lick me bullocks.
I'm gonna lick me bullocks after the dog. Her reading the dog's brain
stuff was still funny to me.
Yeah, as I get older, the more I like it. We're here to make a decision. We have a formula for this. So we need to decide right now which one of these shows is going to move forward into the next round. Heroes or Misfits. And if you haven't listened to Couch Madness 1, go back and listen to it. You got to know why that show won. Come on.
Come on. That's the whole season.
They're numbered in order for a reason. You listen to them in order.
Yeah.
The first part of our foolproof formula for picking a show is the gut check, which means we ask each other, hey, if you gun to your head right now with no other thoughts, which one of these shows would you like to watch the second episode of? Heroes or Misfits? Magellan, what is your gut check pick?
In hearing us talk about these two shows, I could see how this might be a confusing take, but my gut check is Heroes. Because, like, the Misfits pilot is a better crafted episode of television that more clearly knows what it's trying to do and accomplishes it than the Heroes pilot. And the thing that Misfits accomplishes is a show that I don't really want to watch. It's like not to my taste.
Yeah.
Whereas Heroes is like in a more boring way doing a thing that I'm more interested in watching. So my gut check is Heroes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I want to meet you there because I think that Heroes is something, it's more likely something that we could watch and discuss and crunch into and get trivia for, whatever. But if you asked me which one of these shows I want to watch the second episode of, it's Misfits. Like, at the very least, I would like to, if nothing else works out and Heroes makes it all the way, I would like to just watch by myself at least series 1 of Misfits and see where it goes. Because I know so little about it, except that like it's kind of good but kind of not, and it overall just kind of plateaus and then dips at the end in a different cast that has nothing to do with what we're seeing here. But I know Heroes gets bad. You know it. You have to understand that. We know objectively. These shows exist in the past. We are archaeologists. We are not discovering that Heroes is bad. But we are discovering why Heroes and or Misfits gets bad. And I'm more, that's why I kind of struggled, is like I'm kind of more interested in how Heroes gets bad, but I want to watch the second episode of Misfits right now.
Right. Totally hear that. And I think there is a danger that watching Heroes would turn into just a year-long 13 under 13
Yeah.
show, right? Because it
Right.
has, I feel exactly the same way about Heroes that I felt about some of the shows we watched on that, which is like, oh, there's something here. I mean, yeah, what I'm seeing in front of me is not great, but there's something. I gotta see more. It's gotta be better than what people say. So there's
Mhm.
that little voice inside of me. But I don't know. The thing came up at the end of the Misfits episode, and it's like, here's all the shit that's gonna happen. And I was like, fuck, yeah, I don't care. I don't want this. No, thank you. I will say, like, I accidentally fell into the Misfits wiki and did the thing that I do where it's like, oh, let me just skim a little bit and
Yep.
learn
Yep.
something I'm not supposed to know. And it sure seems like shit happens in that show that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
chain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I would love to read it. Um, but I don't love when it's in my eyeballs too much.
I
Yeah.
I'm ready to embrace it. I'm ready to embrace it with my whole heart. It's
Well,
just
let's go down
fascinating.
the scoreboard if you're down for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say because we didn't talk about the visual style of Misfits this time so much as we did on the pilot chats, but
Mhm.
Misfits has so much egregious like British TV color grading that it's occasionally like
Yeah.
hard to look at. I hated that the
Yeah.
first time, and I actually love it this time. I think this is radical acceptance. I think this is my
I, I I
learn
think
to
it's
love the
also
things that you
that
hate.
it's probably been a while since you've seen that aesthetic, right?
Yes.
Because I think when it was 2019 and we were 7 years out from this premiering and only a couple years out from it ending, you were probably at that time watching things that had that aesthetic.
Yes.
And I would imagine it's been a while since you've seen something that looks like this. So,
For sure.
I felt similarly because we were kind of down on it, like, oh, every British show from the 2010s looks like this.
Mhm.
And
And now I'm like,
when
every show from the 2010s looks like this.
hell yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. So I think there's just enough distance that we can sort of appreciate it for what it is.
For sure. Now hit me with that scoreboard, baby.
All right. So as with last time, I've got 16 criteria and we're going to see which show comes out on top. So first, it's the memes, schemes, screams, and themes. Alan, which of these shows had more moments that were memeable, moments of ironic or semi-ironic silliness? What was the more memeable show to you, Heroes or Misfits?
Misfits. Done.
Yeah.
Heroes is
Yeah.
so serious.
Yeah, it is. It is. If it just could have been a little bit funnier, I think it would have done a better job for me.
And maybe it gets funny, but we're talking
Yeah.
about the pilot.
Right. Now, the schemes. Which one to you has more moments of intrigue and plot movement? Things
Okay.
happening and intriguing you in this one.
That's absolutely Heroes.
Yeah.
That's without a doubt Heroes. It's got we're building. We don't even like I said we don't have our villain yet. We do have a villain. We have Claire's dad, but otherwise I don't know what's going on. I have a lot of mysteries and questions.
Yeah. And I still think across both episodes, the moment that was like the most interesting plot moments happened in Heroes for me. Like Hero
Sure.
teleporting to New York, Peter's brother being able to fly. Like there are just moments that happened in that Heroes pilot where I was like, whoa, cool. Okay. Stuff is going to happen in this show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Screams. Which one had more moments of excitement and surprise?
What do you think?
Probably
Yeah.
Misfits.
Yeah, he started typing it before he said it, listener. Yeah, we like to see that. That's correct. It's a horror show.
Yeah. And then themes. Which one had more moments addressing what the show is about? Or, something that's kind of analyzable, discussable. Thematic.
I actually think that's
content.
Misfits.
I think so too. Because I think
Themes matters a lot to me.
that promise of the characters are social outcasts and we're going to give them these abilities and then see what happens feels like there's more meat on the bones there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the characters. The clunks, hunks, punks, and spunks. Look, some people on the Discord, I think it was Stefan maybe, it was like, ew, spunks, gross. I get it. It's like, who's spunky, but I understand. I don't. What do you want me to say? Yunks? The young people? The yunks? You want me to make up a word?
When I heard John say spunks, I did a spit take of my coffee and then realized he didn't mean it the way I took it. No, he did, Stefan.
No, I didn't.
No,
who's
he
the
didn't.
most spunky? Plucky.
Spunky, plucky.
Okay, the clunks. Which one had characters that were dorkier in a fun way?
That's Misfits. Heroes would have got it if they leaned further into Claire's stupid friend who likes her. But I think Misfits are dorkier.
What about Hero?
Okay, you got 2. All five Misfits are dorks. Maybe Alicia's not really a dork. Name me one more dork. Give me one more dork on Heroes.
In Heroes?
Yeah. Okay, Peter, I guess.
Yeah, Peter. I think his brother's kind of a dork.
Politician dork. Are they the Cuomo brothers, by the way?
I think there's something like that happening. Yeah, sort of an Italian brother family situation. Mahinder's kind of a dorky guy.
Yeah, in a sense, for sure.
I don't know. I
Hero
think
does radiate dork energy enough that I could give you this one.
I think Misfits is about to sweep this category otherwise, so I think Heroes give it a little action there.
Okay.
All right, hunks. Which characters were hotter? Come on.
I wish there was a Mott the Barber category. There's nobody in either of these seasons that epitomizes the energy of Mott the Barber from Star Trek TNG. But no, hunks is absolutely Misfits. Are you kidding me? It's 5 hot people. Actually, they're teenagers. Am I allowed to say that?
I think
the show wants you to think that. Yeah.
I'm basing it on like what the show is showing us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, punks, who's more rebellious in a fun way.
Come on, put them on the board, baby.
And then the spunks, which characters were more plucky? Yeah, that's probably Misfits too.
It is. I did not go into this round thinking that Misfits would be sweeping the categories at all. I remember I said, like, I want Heroes to win the whole thing.
That was your prediction, to win the whole bracket.
And now I want to kick it out in round 1. Like, what's going on? The upset. We're not done yet, though, folks.
You came into the season confident that we would be watching Heroes by the end of season 16.
I didn't expect it to be such a show, okay? I didn't expect it to be just exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it would be weirder. It's not weird. It's just fine.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to swap out one of these character ones for like a Mott the Barber type, or like a Lieutenant Braca type, or what's that guy's name? What was the guy who we loved from Farscape?
Kokura
Strappa. Thank you. So what rhymes with unks? Like lunks or
lunks is exactly right.
Lunks. Well, what's a lunk? You big lunk.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lunk is like a himbo, isn't it?
No, it's just like a lovable character, like you big lunk. It can also
short
be like
for lunkhead.
An awkward, heavy, or a stupid person. I take it as like, oh, you big lunk, you big galoot.
All right. Okay, we'll replace spunks with lunks. Who's got the big lunk? So, which characters were more like what would you say? Goofy or what? Kind of
charmingly garrulous, yeah. That's a giant bombcast reference. I'm sorry. I would give it to Heroes then, because of Hero.
Who are the lunks? Hero's a lunk. Hero's a clunk.
I don't know what this breaks me. Oh, he's a dork. Okay.
To me, the clunks are like Lieutenant Data is like a big dork, and that's fun, right? Or like Riker's like a dork.
Yeah.
And then we want a category for what you're describing, a Mott the Barber, or I mean, what show forwards characters like that in the first episode though? Is the problem. None. Clunk rhyme zone. Hold on.
Oh my god.
All rhymes for clunk.
Chunk.
Okay, the trunks, sunks, junks.
No, that's bad. That's the negative.
Yeah, but like it's kind of fun, like these like C tier like junk characters. Like you got a lot of junk in the trunk here.
Sure.
Or the flunks.
No, flunks suggests like abject failure.
Dunks. I think it's Junks. We got to give it to the Junks.
Mm-hmm.
So the Junks are kind of like the like side of the side character kind of thing. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Junks, which had characters that were more, let's say, like let's say eccentric, maybe, or kind of like
quirky.
Hij. I'm just gonna move this up. So you'd give that to Heroes?
I
think Misfits still takes that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we revised, so we're gonna have to, correct the record on what's it called? The other shows. Not really though. Okay, great. Hey, let's talk about the foundations for building a longer lasting, long-term interest in the show. The clues, crews, hues, and shoes. So which has more plot to explore and unravel over time? What's giving us more clues to follow?
Definitely Heroes for sharks.
Yeah, that feels like Heroes. Crews, which has more ensemble dynamics that you want to dig into and explore.
So I think that's obviously Misfits because the ensemble of heroes don't really meet each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think they do. I don't know when they do. I hope they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Misfits.
Okay, hues, which one has more thematic range or places it can go theme-wise? It's probably Misfits too, right? Or would you say it's
range? Well, just range. Like Heroes has more potential. I just don't think it's going to do that. It has more stories it can tell. Is that going to make those all interesting though? I think it actually has higher range.
Okay, so Heroes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the shoes. Which one has more mileage? Which one do you think is going to walk farther here? More mileage from its base premise.
I want to give that to Misfits.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then lastly, the kind of other little pieces and things of interest. The fits, hits, its, and wits. Better costumes and props. I think
Tough.
Misfits. I really like the orange jumpsuits. I like that.
I love the way that they half wear them sometimes, like they're around their legs and stuff.
Yeah.
That imagery is really cool and kind of iconic, and seems like it's a thing that they do even with different cast members. So I'm gonna give that to Misfits.
The hits, which one makes better use of music?
Overall, this is Misfits, although I think Heroes has a better theme song. I like the visuals of the Misfits theme song.
Yeah,
I just prefer the Heroes theme song. Totally.
Yeah. It's, which makes better use of its cast and guest stars?
I would give that to Heroes.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then wits, which one feels better written? Better use of the script?
Tough. They're doing very different things.
I think Misfits, it's more clever to me.
Yeah, but Heroes is more deliberate and careful.
True. Let's give it to Heroes. Script.
Yeah, just barely. Just barely.
Heroes by Heroes. Okay, so if we tabulate here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Misfits with 10 of these, Heroes with 6.
Okay. It's not not an absolute sweep.
Yeah. Look, here's where I'm at. My opinion hasn't changed. If you gave me complete creative control over which one would I want to do a chat season on, I would much rather watch Heroes than Misfits. But I can also sense within myself the not good for the podcast instincts that are leading me to make that decision.
Exactly.
So I'm willing to concede.
Don't tell me yet.
Nothing. I'm not willing to concede a thing.
Oh.
I'm going to do the process we did last time.
You're going to type your answer in the chat. I'm going to do the same. and then we are going to hit enter at the same time. Wait, what happens if we don't agree here?
Last time you said we would keep talking and try to figure it
Yeah.
out. We could also tie and then toss it to the audience and then say next time which one. But there's not like a concrete way to get audience feedback. You know what I mean? So let's type our votes and then we'll hit enter and then we'll see where we stand and what to do with it.
Okay. God.
Tell me when to
God.
hit enter. Tell me when to hit enter.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go!
Why did you
Let's fucking
that?
go! Let's fucking go! I want to watch this. I want to watch Heroes. I decided last minute. I want to get Jim on there. I want to watch Heroes Reborn. I'm going to play the fucking video game. We're going to watch the webisodes. I'm going to go insane. My watch just said it looks like you've taken a hard fall. Should we call 911?
Oh my god. I love you. Can I change my vote?
Yes, you can.
Are you sure? Why are you making this call? What's animating you to do this?
I don't know anymore. I don't know. I picked Heroes, Magellan picked Misfits, just to be clear.
I conceded because I figured, gosh.
We just gift of the Magi at each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because I think what our discussion of these different criteria illuminated is what I said before, which is that like Misfits is a better crafted show that's doing a more clear thing effectively in its pilot. But Heroes, you can't help but shake that feeling of being in 9th grade biology class and Jim is talking to you about freaking Zachary Quinto or whatever, and you're like, God, I gotta watch Heroes one of these days. So I don't trust myself to make the call. It's the problem.
Fuck. The real thing is
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, my thought is that what we're actually deciding on is which of these makes it to the next round.
Right.
Not which one of these wins. Correct.
Yeah.
If you're just talking about episode 2, that doesn't really answer it for me.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch the second episode of both of these.
Right. I mean, it's our show. We could just do that if we want to.
Mm-hmm. No, we have to decide. That's the whole point of the fucking matchup.
I know, you're right. Well, here's the thing about Misfits. It's not a lot of episodes, right?
Yep, true.
So there's a world, like, there's some shows where I think it's damning if they don't win this tournament. Misfits is only 37 episodes. It would only take us 4 months to watch it. So it's the kind of show that I think if it falls out of contention in Couch Madness, we could sort of say, like, if people are interested in it, there may be a world where we come back to it. Because, like, that's an easier thing for us to commit to, and we tend to watch shows of that length a little more often. Whereas Heroes... How many episodes are we talking about here? Heroes has 77 episodes, which is a lot. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, like, it's only bad to rule against Misfits in this case if we think that Misfits could go all the way and win it, right?
Right.
Because I think we understand. I don't think episode 2 is going to give us any new information. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas I think the reason I'm more interested in episode 2 of Heroes, partly it's a matter of taste. I don't love, like, I wouldn't of my own accord watch Misfits, I don't think. But also I'm, like, more interested in the promises made by the Heroes pilot. So that, to me anyway, feels like a show where if the question is, like, we're trying to determine which show is the most worthy of, like, an extended chat season, there's more information to be gained from episode 2 of Heroes than episode 2 of Misfits, is my thought. But that's like kind of a cheeky choice to make if it's possible that Misfits could win and be the season 16 show. You know what I mean?
If it's the second episode that we're talking about, then it's Heroes. If it's the show with more full series potential, then it's Misfits. I just read, this might have solved it for me at least.
Okay.
I just found a wiki page on the Misfits wiki that is so fucking bonkers. And I need to see that happen. So I'm okay turning my key and switching back to Misfits, which was where my original heart actually lied.
Oh my god, you switched me back to Heroes is the problem. When you started talking about the game and the revival series, I was like,
I know. I felt, man, we're so over dramatic here, guys. This is a TV podcast. None of this is real. But I felt myself looking over the abyss of the next several months of my life. That's the other thing you got to think about, man, is this podcast is going to be the thing you do every like Sunday night. You're like, I'm going to watch X show. And then
I know. Yeah. Well, and this is what's so fun about, like, this really does feel, last week really felt like a 1 seed against a 16 seed where
easy.
Alias
so
makes
easy.
Alias puts up a fight. It's not going to just lose, but it also wasn't at any point going to take itself all the way to the victory. But it's like, it was David versus Goliath and they did what they could. But of course Stargate won because it's Stargate. Mm-hmm. Whereas this, it's like, it could go either way. And I don't have a read on what people would rather us watch. Because like I said, I don't trust my instinct to want to watch the mid-aughts show that I've heard ends badly. Like I have just a demon inside me that needs to see that. So,
but you've seen mid-aughts shows that end badly.
I know, and I can't get enough of them. I need to see more.
Me too.
To put this to bed,
okay.
Misfits was a better pilot. What did you say?
Heroes it is.
Really?
Oh no. Yeah, I'll take Heroes.
What the fuck?
I
was about to concede again.
I can't. I want to concede so
okay,
badly.
let's flip a coin.
Yeah, honestly, fuck it. Flip a coin. Hold on. Let me screen share.
No, we shouldn't do this.
I know, we kind of can't give it up to fate like that.
Let's... Fuck. Do we watch episode 2 of each one next week? No.
Well, that won't necessarily help us decide. Like, will the week to week of one of these shows suddenly make the answer clearer? I thought that Ryan's email would make this easy for us, but he made a very good case
it
for
harder.
both shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to like go stare at a wall for half an hour and pray. And the answer will come to me.
Look, I think this is my final thought on it.
Okay.
I don't think I can argue much longer in good faith for Heroes because Misfits is just better. The pilot was better. So it feels like I feel the need to concede for Misfits and to see it move forward. I think Misfits gets bounced out of the second round by Stargate. I don't think it beats Stargate. I mean,
is that who it's playing against?
Yeah, the winner of this matchup plays Stargate in the next round.
Interesting.
I think Heroes v Stargate is a more interesting matchup, but then we're kind of like playing God with I guess we can't avoid being meta because we are like the judges and the players in this tournament in a weird way. But my point is like, this is where we should decide what the metric is, right? Because I think that's what's ultimately making the choice. Yep. Either we say we watched an episode of this show and we're picking the one that was better, or we are taking a step back and having the full metatextual conversation about which chat season are we more interested in pursuing. Which of those two things do you think should be the metric for this bracket?
I think the meta, like the show that we're going to take to the end, has to be the bracket. It has to be the meta.
Then for me, that's Heroes, but I'm willing to concede that Misfits, if you think that people would be more interested in Misfits, then I think we'd do that.
Yeah, well, okay, so now you've made this easier for me. The question then is, will people be happier with one or the other, or will we be happier with one or the other? And if it's about us, which, as we've learned in the last couple months, is important, then it's Heroes.
Okay.
I think it's actually, if it's us, he said us, like all that stuff, then it's Heroes, plain and simple.
Okay.
It's a bad show. It's gonna get terrible. No, it's not a bad show. It's an interesting show. It's gonna get terrible.
Yeah.
It's got a sequel show that's probably also mediocre. And we have friends that watch it, and I'm excited to be able to say, hey, I finally watched Heroes. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start crying. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. All right, then should we move Heroes forward? It sounds like.
Yeah.
This is, I think, I'm willing to overturn that decision if the audience consensus is no, you picked wrong. Please don't watch Heroes. Misfits is really great, and you should watch episode 2. But I think that's our call. And also, if there's that love for Misfits, I'm willing to swallow my distaste for it and explore if we wanted to do one of those mid-length seasons on it or something one of these days.
True. For sure.
But it sounds like Heroes makes it to the next round.
Through hell and high water.
Oh my goodness. What a process.
I'll tell you this. The second episode of Heroes does not introduce the villain yet. The villain's in episode 3. But Greg Grunberg is introduced in episode 2.
Greggy, okay.
Greg Grunberg, who became famous for playing a character in Heroes. Now we get to see who that is.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Whew.
Okay. Anyway, that was our matchup between Misfits and Heroes. Next time, we are continuing through the round of 16 with our first matchup where I couldn't really tell you because Stargate versus Alias we sort of stumbled upon. It's American government, imperial hegemony, something. Misfits and Heroes is pretty straightforward. The next round, I don't really know what the matchup is here. It's Quantum Leap and The Legend of Korra. Now, just to make sure we're on the same page here, this is the first matchup where we have already seen the pilots for both.
Yes.
Should we stick with, though, watching the first episode still?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long enough time on both.
Yeah, true.
It's been years.
Was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been years since you watched the Korra. Well, I haven't really watched it since then, but I watched that whole series, which is worth taking into account. And then Quantum Leap. Is it a 90-minute pilot?
I think it's a long pilot, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Or it's a 2-parter, but I think we watched both parts.
Yeah.
For our pilot chat.
Oh, also called Genesis, haha. How many pilots do you think are out there called Genesis?
Probably
a million.
More than there need to be.
Yeah, for the sake of this, I think we watch the pilot of both again. And maybe if Quantum Leap wins, then the second round of Quantum Leap should be a random episode. Because that's how we're going to watch it.
Okay.
We want to be just like Dr. Sam Beckett and go through time randomly.
Great. Okay, so I'll read the summary for the Quantum Leap episode if you want to read the summary for the Korra pilot.
Sure.
Great. So we have first Season 1, Episode 1 of Quantum Leap, Genesis Part 1, September 13th, 1956. When his experiment in time travel backfires, a brilliant scientist finds himself in 1956 in the body of a test pilot, an interesting career move for someone incapable of flying.
Very exciting. I have a longer summary for The Legend of Korra's pilot.
Okay.
Because there's one that's just like, Korra goes to Republic City. That's not enough for me. I want more. So I found this one. Welcome to Republic City, episode 1 of season 1, book 1, Air of The Legend of Korra. After Avatar Korra completes her firebending training, the Order of the White Lotus decides she's ready to start learning the last element, air, with Tenzin, Katara's son. However, when the airbender has to postpone training due to his political duties, Korra runs away in order to find him and commence her training. Once there, she learns the reality of Republic City and defeats some gangsters, and Tenzin, after conversing with Lin Beifong, succeeds in freeing her and plans to send her back home, but she convinces him to allow her to live on Air Temple Island and begin her training as the Avatar. Yeah. So that's actually the first... No, well, kind of. Is it the first sequel to a Chatz season? Because Crusade is this... But Crusade's not a sequel to Babylon 5.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It must be... I mean, how many shows have sequels?
Not any.
I feel like it must be.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'll listen back to all of The Last Transmitter, which I've already listened to twice, and it'll be great.
Cool.
Underdog season of the podcast. Anyways, Quantum Leap and Korra. Maybe the theme is time, the passage of time. We'll see. And,
Okay,
and industrialization.
I fuck with it.
Magellan, thank you for being here in the arena with me. The battles like this are so important for our friendship.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, dude. I got a little emotional there, but I'm good. I'm Gucci.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Did we make the right choice?
We'll never know, but we made it.
Okay.
It's fine. You go a little bit longer in your life not having seen Misfits, or you could just watch it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So, that being said, Magellan, can you tell me where people can find you on the podcast here?
You can find me on another podcast called Super Smash Echoes that I do with my friend Justin, where we play video games related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise, Super Smash Echoes. I'm also on Substack at notthatmagellan.substack.com, so check me out there as well. Alan, what about you?
I'm on a couple podcasts on scanlinemedia.com. You can hear me on the Creature Quorum. You can hear me on the Garner Wager, and on other podcast platforms. You can hear me on Talking Marketing, which is found wherever you listen to pods. It's a marketing interview show I do every other month for my volunteer job with AMA Boston. That's what we have, folks. Our email address, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, taking it to the show's plug zone, is chatspod@gmail.com. We are at Chatspod on Twitter, soon to be on Blue Sky. We have a Blue Sky invite in hand, and I will get Chatspod made on Blue Sky sooner than later. I just need to remember to sit down and do it. We're not going to get on Threads because I'm decided I'm anti-Threads, even though it's probably going to be much more popular. Maybe I'll back out on the decision later. Who could say, oops? We have a YouTube channel. It's Chatz Television Podcast. If you like our show, you can support us in a couple ways. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can support us financially at patreon.com/chatspod. If you back us at $1, $3, or $5 a month, you get different bonus content in each of those tiers, like the aforementioned pilot chats where we watched some of these shows before, and like commentary chats where we watch movies together and talk over them, and like Chatz nights where we just have fun and don't fight over TV. If you back us at $5 or more, you get thanked at the end of every main feed episode. And as of today, our $5 plus patrons include Arthur, Emerus, Jen, Justin, Kat, Lee, Magellan's mom, Marcus, May Louise, Michael, Nick and Pat of the Brothers at Infinite War, Six, and Stefan. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. All things Chatz can be found at chatspod.com. And if you like our main feed art, it was done by our friend Camilla, who can be found at Camilla Strader on social media. Now, Magellan, before I take it home, I want to ask you, what is your Chatsum for this week? You guys don't know. What the hell's a Chatsum? It's a recommendation that each host gives. You should know these things by now, but maybe you're listening to this one for the first time because you want to hear about Heroes and Misfits. It's a short but potent recommendation that each host gives for you to enjoy between now and the next episode of the pod. What is or are your Chatsums for this week?
My Chatsum this time around is I recently purchased the core rulebook for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which, if folks don't know, is kind of an offshoot of Dungeons and Dragons. It's like a remake of D&D 3.5 or so, made by Paizo Publishing, who used to make D&D adventures and third-party content, and then got into making their own game. And I've been really enjoying digging into just some of the things that the system has to offer in terms of character customization options. And there's lots of great YouTube content out there digging into Pathfinder, and videos of people who were D&D people who were like, I'm doing Pathfinder now and I like it. It's cool. And some people going the other way. So I don't know. It's interesting. Just reminding people that many RPGs exist. So consider looking at what's out there, because it's a great hobby and there's a lot of creative stuff going on in it. Alan, what about you?
Love tabletop games, buddy. They're some of my faves of all the games. I have another book chat on for y'all, believe it or not. I just finished Emily St. John Mandel Station 11, which I recently chat-summed. Incredible book. Wonderful companion piece to the HBO series. I guess the book came first, so the show is the companion piece. They're both awesome, and they both have really great things to say. But I just started my new book, my quick summer read that I got for my birthday. It's I Like Me Better by Robbie Weber. If the elevator pitch of gay high school soccer drama is appealing to you, this book is just that so far. I'm already like a third through it. It's so breezy and fun. The art on the cover is beautiful. It's fun. It's charming. The dialogue is cute. The queerness is textual. If that's appealing to you, then you should read I Like Me Better by Robbie Weber. It came out literally in May of this year, so it's brand new also. Robbie Weber has apparently done a bunch of other stuff. I'm not familiar with their work, but I Like Me Better is really fun and has good teen dialogue, which is a big plus for me. Anyways, folks, that's what we got. We hope you enjoyed this discussion of Misfits v Heroes. We'll be back next week for Quantum Leap and The Legend of Korra. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Magellan for being the Nathan to my Alicia, because I'm just a little bit too sexy for you. And I'm just kidding. I really do just pick two names out of a hat. If people are curious how I do that, I pick the first two names I can think of. And thank you guys for listening to Chatz. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.